I don't have any time for these people that 1 minute Mikel Arteta is better than Unai Emery, and then the next minute, if he doesn't win a trophy, he's got to be sacked. I have no time for that, because what if he comes third and wins the Champions League? What then? What are you going to do then? That's a trophy. So this whole he's got to win a trophy or he's got to go, like, that debate can happen. I'm sure it will happen, and maybe it's legitimate. I'm not interested in that debate. So, like, we'll deal with that at the end of the season.
Is it a possible reality for you though, come May?
I think it's a fair discussion to have. At 5 years, no trophy, a club like Arsenal is not good enough.
Yeah, so but you don't want to entertain it now. It's early.
Yeah, I just think it's people reacting, and I think, I don't know if it was Lee or James said, I think it's people that just, I've never been convinced about him. I've been looking for any little thing to just let that out. So, like, just if you don't rate him, just say you don't rate him. It's fine. Don't tell me he's a genius at Man City at the Etihad with 10 men, and then we lose to Bournemouth, and I've got no time for those idiots online. So
I want to chime in here because James has already mentioned it, but the reality is, like, the reason on one hand we look at Mikel and say, you know, he can be a genius at times and he makes it work is because of the games, you know, that we've gone down to 10, like Brighton, well, not necessarily Brighton, but Man City away from home, and you've got to do a job, and you do a job. But the difference is you got to do a job against a Man City away from home or a Tottenham away from home, or you've got to do a job when you're 1-0 up and you go down to 10 men against Brighton. Those are the times you've got to do a job. I feel like aside from Leicester this season, every other game where Leicester and Villa, I'll give Villa as well, because Villa's a difficult away tie. You're not going to have an abundance of chances, but, you know, we managed that game well. Aside from those two games, I think we have struggled to, James, fluid in transition. It's the same kind of things I was saying early part of last season. Now, I had egg on my face come midway point, because after that Fulham loss last season, we didn't lose again up until now. And that's what led us close to the Premier League title. But this is game week 8. This is game week 8. We've suffered this loss in now.
Really annoys me is a lot of fans. Every time I see a fan, sometimes, do you know what they ask me? Like, the question is, like, if we don't win a trophy, he's got to go, Lee, and he's got to go. And I argue the case. Yesterday, he gave every single fan that thinks that the ammo for that. And I look at them now, you know, and fans, you know, we've lost one game, boys. And fans online and everything can't wait to mention about how poor a manager he is and he ain't going to get us over the line. And I'm sitting there yesterday after that decision yesterday to cater Marino into that side. I'm tending to agree with them, and it winds me up. It winds me up that I'm thinking that, because I'm thinking to myself, are you ruthless enough? And it does worry me now. If he is going to be, you know, listen, we can't go overboard. It's one game, and that's what I'm going to try and do. But when you hear people constantly saying, if you don't win nothing, this is why. This is that game yesterday is why those fans say it. And it really frustrates me, but I haven't got no comeback on it, boys. I haven't. I'm so annoyed with him yesterday.
What Mikel did signing that contract this season is put it all on himself, because he didn't talk about the transfer window after. He was happy with it come the end of it, apparently. And he signed a contract now that puts it all on him. So all the pressure he's going to get now off the back of this, you know, and even the press conference, I didn't like it. One thing about Pep, and we've likened Mikel to Pep a lot over the years, is Pep will say it as it is more often than not. If his team puts in a performance like we did, he will say that is shit. And he will call out a few things. Mikel protected a hell of a lot of them yesterday by making it about the 65 minutes with 10 men. What about the 35 with 11, Mikel?
But that Turkish is unusual for him, because I disagree. I've heard him call out Arsenal after performances plenty of times. Yesterday, he had a shocker. Before the game, during the game, after the game, I agree. But I don't think it's fair to say that he often protects the team. I've heard him batter Arsenal in press conferences when we played poorly plenty of times. Yes. Yesterday wasn't, for me, an anomaly.
Not that he's needed to, because we haven't played shit much in the past 2.5 years. But
no, but I'm chatting about over his tenure. We've performed poorly in games.
But come out, Jordan, you know my problem. Come out and say it's not good enough. Not in Spanish, not in Roman, not in French. Say it in plain English. It's not good enough. Because you keep on talking about 10 men, it gets into the player's head.
Yeah.
And it's me. Oh, there is something against us already walking onto the pitch. Oh, shit, we're down to 10. The manager's bringing on a centre-back. It's all hands on deck. It gets into the player's head. So the tone is set from Mikel. And I can praise him and say, you know, he's a genius for some of the things he's done in the last 3 years. But I'm equally going to be vexed with him for some of this bullshit that he fails to call out. Because he mentioned Trossard's pass back to Saliba. That was a stupid pass. Saliba's pullback, he protects it again because it's a split second. I get that. I understand it. But off the back of that performance, there was nothing in the way of harsh criticism in that press conference. It was very much protective.
No,
I don't think it's the right way to be making these players feel when you're going up against. We're gonna be licking wounds all season with this mentality. One game it was 10 men. One game it was a bad tackle there. One game it was unfortunate low block. Forget the licking wounds mentality now. It's about, you know, accountability. And yesterday, Mikel should have been more accountable in that on himself because the team selection was a problem. I didn't think it was as big a problem as it turned out to be. His substitution was a problem. Explain why you took off Sterling. Explain that, Mikel. Why did you? What was you doing that? Tells everyone what it is for the rest of the season because it's Bournemouth.
I also feel like with his, we talked about the 11, but I also felt with his subs, he didn't quite commit to anything. So if he'd gone to a 5-3-1, for example, I think people would have been critical because, you know, it's a back five away at Bournemouth. Why so defensive? But that weirdly makes you a better attacking outfit because what you've got is wing backs that can get forward and still leave plenty behind. And what you do is you create triangles more naturally across the pitch. So he didn't quite commit. He went to a 4-4-1. I mean, bringing Kivior on just felt so negative because you could have just kept to the 4-4-1 by moving either Rice centre-back or Partey right-back. You know, you could have done one of those things and you didn't. You opted to bring on Kivior, which felt so negative. But you didn't quite want to commit to getting the right players around the box, you know, and make that bank of five so you're really solid. Which means you wanted to leave something going forward, but then took Sterling off, who is kind of your only pace. He's kind of your only outlet. He's the only ability to go from one end of the pitch to the other quite quickly. You know, basically, when you're down to 10 men, Trossard's like the last person I want on the pitch, bar the fact that maybe he's the kind of person who can put the ball in the top corner. I was
going to say, let's be fair. It takes off Trossard, you're taking off your best finisher. So maybe
Jordan, you take off Trossard, you take away the guy that fucked about.
Yeah, that's also true.
How are you leaving him on the pitch? And then when Trossard does come off, he's coming off arrogant. He's coming off. You can see in his head, why am I coming off? Why are you coming off? The question is, why are you starting at the moment?
You could see the players were so tentative to do anything. And ultimately, he weakened the personnel on the pitch by getting Kivior on for Raheem Sterling. It was a really, really weird one from Mikel.
Totally agree.